friendship that'll never ever end.
Run!
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Reaction Video 690. What? In that neighborhood, my brothers and sisters, as we proceed to give you what you need, we are going back to Lazy Masquerade. Back to the Lazy Man Big Team. Hope y'all doing excelente out there today. And I'm glad that you came on back to the channel once again to help with the bean. And the title of the video is Neomugicha, 2Channel's darkest user. Is that Neomugicha or Neomugicha? Tomato, man. It don't freaking matter, man. But as far as the title goes, y'all, as soon as I read the title, the first thing that came to my mind was, is this user a murderer? You know what I'm saying? Or is it this user just on some weird ish? Like Smart Schoolboy 9. You know, Smart Schoolboy 9 is one of the most weirdest mother you'll ever meet in your life. But he haven't actually murdered somebody. Well, as far as we know, he ain't murdered somebody. Y'all get what I'm saying, man. If you don't, I'm sorry, big team. Y'all know how I get. But we finna get into today's video. But before we get into it, y'all know what y'all got to do. Get whatever you might need. Get what you need, please. We are back to the Lazy Masquerade. Y'all got what y'all need. Y'all ready to go? Then let's go. The Lazy.
The late 90s, an era of breakneck technological progress, when the internet was still in its wild and untamed youth. The days of dial-up modems, chain letters, unhinged chat rooms, bait-and-switch websites, never-ending loading screens, the dot-com boom, long-forgotten acronyms, and exciting new possibilities. And in those dying days of the greatest of decades, an innovative new text board was launched by online pioneer Hiroyuki Nishimura, one that was destined to change the internet forever. Its name, 2Channel.net. From its inception, 2Channel was a roaring success, and over time grew to become Japan's most popular online community. What made the website so novel, for its time at least, was its focus on anonymity. Though each user did have a space for a kotahan, or handle, few of them ever made use of it, preferring to remain nameless. The anonymous nature of 2Channel interactions made the fledgling website a haven for those looking to speak their minds without fear of judgment or criticism, and the fact that the servers were hosted in San Francisco only sweetened the deal, liberating Japanese users from their country's restrictive censorship rules. And if anywhere needed a space for people to freely vent without fear of repercussions, it was Japan. A country where the nail that sticks up must be hammered down was, and still is, a common idiom. But as numerous studies have proven, when you're allowed to go around wearing a mask, even a virtual one, people tend to shed their civility. And to the surprise of no one, the anonymous 2Channel soon gained a reputation as a hangout for degenerates, populated by edgelords, bigots, and, most infamously, Neto Uyoku, ultranationalists who used the site to spread false rumors about Korean and Chinese residents, such as how they would plunder evacuation centers after earthquakes and were responsible for the majority of the country's crime. As that toxic culture began to proliferate on the site, any user that did go by a name became a pariah. However, one user in particular, who went by the nickname Kyato Kira, despised the whole concept of online anonymity. In his mind, anonymous posts were akin to toilet graffiti, worthless scribbles thrown out into the ether. If you had something to say, don't do it from the shadows, he thought. As such, he bucked the trend and gave himself the Cat Killer handle, a jab at users who used Gikoneko and Mona, ASCII art cats that were popular across the platform. The vast majority of nameless 2Chanites didn't take kindly to that, and ironically, began trying to hammer down the nail who didn't fall in line with their thinking. They flooded all of Cat's posts with meaningless gibberish, browser-crashing links, and of course, Gikonekos and Monas. Tired of having his posts vandalized, but determined not to be driven from the website, Cat Killer proposed a game. He made a new thread on which users could write whatever they wanted, but on which only the 1000th reply counted. If he left the 1000th reply, he wagered, he could keep the name Cat Killer, and nobody could challenge his use of it from there on. On the flip side, if anyone else left the 1000th reply, he promised to give up the handle forever. And so it began, with users slowly but surely contributing their own thoughts and comments, edging the reply count up towards that magic number. All the while, Cat sat glued to his monitor, his own reply typed up and ready to be sent, waiting for the precise moment to strike. When the reply count hit 999, he smashed the enter key. 1000, 1000, 1000, 1000, I win. His comment did.
I just gotta point out, y'all, that this seems so mundane to me. Like this is like, I don't understand why these people taking this issue so serious. And it ain't even just this what going on right now as far as the username, and they want him to get rid of the name Cat Killer. And people, you got a certain side of people who hate people who use anonymous names. Then you got the anonymous side who want to remain anonymous. Like all of it just seems so freaking like insignificant. Like it's not that serious. It's not that deep. But this happened back in the 90s or whatever, the early 2000s or whatever. But it's the same thing going on today on the internet, y'all. People be arguing about the most pettiest ish and be ready to damn fight each other over it. I'll give you one quick example. Just basketball talk on the internet. Who better, Jordan or LeBron or Kobe? Like dudes be really ready to go to fisticuffs over that ish that really don't matter like that. It's crazy. Let's go.
Did appear at the bottom of the thread, but all Cat Killer could do was look on in horror as the other users laughed at him. His comment number read 1001. Someone had beaten him to the punch by a millisecond.
Oh!
Cat was derided and shamed by his peers, and, acknowledging that he had finally run out of lives, agreed to surrender his handle, only to give himself a new one, Neomugicha. In English, Neo Barley Tea. This resulted in more backlash. All of the other posters expected Cat Killer to join their anonymous ranks, but instead, he had thought up a new way to insult them. At that time, Mugicha was Japanese internet slang for a super hacker, and was often used to mock people who boasted about being familiar with computers. The new username was a tongue-in-cheek dig at the average 2Channel user, the incels and neckbeards who had mocked Neomugicha for not falling in line. Though it may be tempting to praise Cat Killer, now Neomugicha, for not bowing to peer pressure and refusing to hide behind a mask, he was undoubtedly a terminally online deviant himself, one who often made inflammatory remarks, frequently visited the crime boards to praise killers and their actions, and stated that one day soon, he planned to take out his frustrations on the world too. Some readers encouraged him. After all, given his handle and post history, there was no reason to suspect Neomugicha was anything more than your garden variety internet troll. That is, until May 3rd, 2000, when he left his final ever post on 2Channel.
Uh-oh.
Saga City, Saga Prefecture, 17 years old. Unlike a lot of his posts, the cryptic message didn't seem to be in reference to anything in the news, leaving the few users who stumbled upon it baffled, and frankly, a little concerned. Random juvenile crime was a hot topic in Japan in the late 90s and early 2000s, with kireru, or snap, being the word of the day. Either due to societal pressure, poor mental health, or a combination of the two, many youths, young boys in particular, were snapping and taking their anger out on random strangers. Elders began referring to the nation's adolescents as a generation of criminals without a cause, citing the recent Sake Demon Rose Sato case, in which a 14-year-old attacked 5 students with a hammer, slaying 2 of them, and the Tokugawa housewife murder case, in which a 17-year-old brutally took the life of a stay-at-home mother.
Damn.
In reference to that second incident, Neomugicha had previously written, "Wonderful. And 17 years old, the same age as me. It's a good trend. How was the pleasure of stabbing her in 40 places? I'll try it too today. I feel something fateful with you. We're the same age, and we're both honor students at school."
Yeah, Neomugicha. I'm just gonna stop trying to even say that. We just gonna call him Neo from now on, Big Team. Hey, Neo is on some crazy ish, man. Like Neo done went from just, a dispute about having a username, the cat killer or whatever, to now he not only is he encouraging cats to be killed, he congratulating people for freaking killing adults, real people, and talking about he gonna do the same thing. Like he jumping off the deep end now, y'all. And this is what I was saying earlier when I was wondering, man, like, is this dude gonna be a murderer type, or he just gonna be a weird type on the internet just trolling in some weird ways, so to speak? Seemed like we getting our answer.
In past threads, Neomugicha had mentioned a friend who had apparently been admitted to a mental hospital, and some began to question whether he had actually been writing about his own experiences. Was it possible that he, too, was on the verge of snapping? But just as they were pondering that possibility, the background humbus from their television sets was replaced by the sound of a breaking news alert. Between writing scripts, editing videos, and managing my accounts, my schedule can get a little hectic. And when life gets busy, having the flexibility to choose where I invest my time is everything.
I think Lazy Man gone to a commercial, y'all. Yeah, he gone to his commercial. But yeah, Neo jumping out the deep end now. And then Lazy Man just brought up the fact that maybe he the one who actually been doing this ish all along. Maybe he writing about his real experiences or something. Maybe he already have killed and we don't even know it. Let's go.
38 minutes after Neomugicha had left his post on 2Channel, at 12:56 p.m, Nishitetsu Express Bus number 8544, bound for Tenjin, departed from the Saga Second Joint Government Building. 21 passengers were on board. 6 men, 14 women, and one 6-year-old girl named Yuki, who had been placed on the bus by her mother, and who was travelling alone to meet her grandparents at Tenjin Station. All of them were just ordinary people, travelling for work, to see family, and to attend concerts during the busiest time of the year. Well, almost all of them. 39 minutes into their 70-minute journey, one of the passengers, a 17-year-old male, approached the driver, brandished a large chef's knife, and held it inches away from his face. Then, with little to no emotion in his voice, that young man made an announcement to the rest of the passengers. "I'm taking control of the bus. Toss your phones, jackets, and watches on the floor. Your destination is not Tenjin. It's hell." Due to his age at the time, the perp's name was kept hidden from the public, with the media referring to him as Boy A. However, it didn't take long for someone to link Boy A to Neomugicha's account, and soon 2Channel became aware that the most infamous user's final post wasn't nonsense. It was a declaration, a confession, a warning. Neomugicha instructed the driver to continue along the expressway without giving him a definitive destination. The men on board were told to move to the back of the bus, while the women were made to sit in the middle. Yuki was kept at the front as collateral. He then ordered all of them to close the curtains on their windows so that nobody outside could see in. "Do as I say," Neomugicha told the passengers, "or trust me, you'll die." Noticing that one woman was asleep when he began issuing orders, Neomugicha nudged her awake, told her, "You're sleeping rottenly," and slashed her across the throat with his blade.
Oh my!
The woman clutched tightly at her neck. Though not quite deep enough to be fatal, the slash proved to everyone that he wasn't making empty threats. Even so, the men at the back began whispering about overpowering the scrawny boy, but Mugicha had anticipated that. To prevent anyone from approaching him, he had all of the extendable supplementary seats in each row folded out, making movement along the aisle difficult. The boy then gathered all of the passengers' phones from the ground, preventing them from calling for help. Unlike airplanes and taxis, buses at the time had no system for secretly informing outsiders of a hijacking. According to the driver on board, he was trying to notify other vehicles of the situation by turning on his hazard lights and flashing his high beams, all to no avail. When the bus didn't reach its destination at the scheduled time of 2:06 and its driver couldn't be contacted, the Nishitetsu Bus Company set up a task force at its headquarters, but they still had no idea that the vehicle had been hijacked. Still, they collected the names of all of the passengers on board. Around that same time, the aging bus driver attempted to bargain with Neomugicha, calmly requesting that he let Yuki go. Whatever grievance he had, she played no part in it. Neomugicha flatly refused. However, he did begrudgingly agree to the driver's second request, to let the passengers get off and use the bathroom. The bus had no toilet facility, and considering the predicament they were now in, the passengers may be about to burst. Thus, at 2:40 PM, the hostage-taker asked if anyone needed to use the toilet. Almost every passenger silently raised their hand. Flustered, the boy thought for a second, and then said that they could all exit the bus one at a time and do their business by the roadside, but promised that if anyone didn't return, he'd hold someone else on board personally responsible. The first woman to be let off, predictably, fled the scene with her pet dog and immediately contacted the police. Angered and true to his word, Neomugicha approached a random passenger, Yumiko Yamaguchi, and slashed at her 10 times, with one cut to her face, reaching the bone. Nobody else was allowed to go to the bathroom. Before long.
Oh, now I wonder how that lady feel, man. You know what I'm saying? Because you really was the cause of that lady right there getting stabbed, getting slashed, because you didn't follow Neo rules. He said one at a time, y'all get off the bus, you use the bathroom, you get right back on. But he should have known somebody was gonna take off running. But the very first person took off running, and I'm just sitting back wondering if I was in that situation, would I take off running or not? I don't know, man, because then it'll be on my conscience forever. Like, damn, man, I'm the reason that person got killed or potentially could get killed. You know what I'm saying? It's an effed up situation. Neo just jumped off the deep end, y'all. I didn't know. I thought that most of this stuff was just gonna remain on him on 2Channel. You know what I'm saying? No, this dude is in real life going crazy right now.
The Expressway Traffic Police Force, as well as several news teams, had located the bus and began to pursue it. As they did, one of the passengers, a woman in her 30s, jumped from the moving vehicle onto the expressway and broke her leg. The passenger was swiftly picked up and told the police that the culprit was becoming increasingly unhinged. Indeed, when he noticed that she had escaped, Neomugicha began slashing at another female passenger, a 68-year-old schoolteacher named Tatsuko Tsukamoto. After some deliberation, Neomugicha instructed the driver to head towards Okayama. The bus entered the Sanyo Expressway from Yamaguchi Junction, where its path was blocked by a police vehicle. As the bus slowly made its way through the blockade, the police managed to rescue another passenger through a window. By this time, most media outlets had begun reporting on the incident, and the moment the passenger was rescued was broadcast live on TV. With this being the first incident of its kind in Japan, the authorities were woefully unprepared to handle it. Fearing that the perp was becoming too erratic, and unsure what else he may do, they gave up on trying to solve the problem in Yamaguchi, lifted the blockade, and allowed the bus to continue towards Hiroshima, a decision that would cost them dearly. Frustrated.
I don't agree with that, man. I would have never let that goddamn bus go, let him continue on with this craziness. F that, Neo, you finna get up off this bus, bruh. We busting up in that thing. You know what I'm saying? Guns drawn. Like, and I hate to say this, but maybe that method that I'm saying, maybe potentially somebody else would die. But I feel like the choice that the police made in this case, y'all gonna lead to a lot more people dying by allowing him to keep on going. Nah, I ain't with that decision. I would have probably thought it through a little bit more, being team, but at the end of the day, hell no, I'm not dropping this barricade and letting you continue down this road with all these freaking hostages. No.
That another of his hostages had been rescued, Neomugicha decided to intimidate the remaining passengers by furiously stabbing Mrs. Tsukamoto and then loudly proclaiming to a nearby woman, "If anyone else gets away, I'll kill you next." From there, Neomugicha did something unexpected. He contacted the authorities from his own mobile phone and began trying to make a deal, asking that they back off a little in exchange for some hostages. Shortly after 5 PM, the bus entered a tunnel in Hiroshima Prefecture, where Neomugicha released all of the male passengers, bar the driver. To ensure he wasn't rushed by any of them as they got off, he used 6-year-old Yuki as a human shield and held his blade tight across her throat. He also agreed to release the 3 previously injured hostages, though by that point, one of them, Mrs. Tsukamoto, had already died from blood loss.
Dang.
The other 2 were in a critical condition, but thankfully still alive. As they exited the bus, another woman was able to quietly crawl out of a window and escape. With the handover complete, Neomugicha then directed the bus towards Tokyo, but was again forced to stop at a service station, this time to refuel. There, another long stalemate ensued. The Hiroshima police force provided food, portable toilets, blankets, and other items for the passengers to use in exchange for 2 more hostages. By 11 PM, Neomugicha released another. It was clear that his plan, whatever it was falling apart, and, hoping that he may be ready to surrender, the authorities located his parents and brought them to the scene. However, he refused to acknowledge them. For the remainder of the night, the bus would stay parked at that service station. All the while, a special assault team was conducting a rapid training exercise in preparation to raid the bus, learning as much about the vehicle as they could. They agreed.
Man, I just gotta point it out, y'all. I just gotta point this out too, and follow me real quick, Bean Team, because and I know this might not be the morally right thing or the proper procedures or the lawful thing, whatever the freaking word I'm looking for. All I'm saying is, long story short, story long, this man got people hostage. He didn't kill people. He got knives up to little 6-year-old girls' throats and stuff. Did y'all just see in that footage all the free time that he was walking around and stuff? If I was the police force or whatever, if I was the sergeant, if I was in charge, I would tell somebody to take their shot. We can get I just was looking like, man, a headshot could have been pulled on this dude at any time. I'm sorry, kill his ass. Kill him before he kill more people, man. F that. Now, I understand the procedure they doing about trying to get, they've been getting more and more people off this bus. But I'm just looking at the videos and the pictures like, dude, his head is wide open right now. Somebody please take a shot and end this ish. Like, seriously. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I would have had somebody shoot this dude, and then we ain't got to worry about nothing else. Everybody else come up off the bus. The threat has been, whatever the word is. You know what I'm talking about.
Agreed that the best time to strike was dawn. At just after 5 AM on May 4th, 15 and a half hours after the bus jacking commenced, the siege force was in position. A police officer began by negotiating with Neomugicha through the driver's side window, listening to his demands and keeping him distracted. With the eyes of the nation upon them, 15 SAT officers quietly surrounded the bus and waited for the negotiating officer to drop his gloves. That was the signal for them to breach. When the gloves fell, the team launched a flashbang through the driver's side window while simultaneously smashing through those on the side. Though Neomugicha slashed one officer across the leg, they were able to capture him alive at 5:03 AM. The remaining hostages on board were left mentally shaken, but physically unharmed. Following his arrest, psychologists determined that Neomugicha had dissociative disorders, and given that he was a juvenile, he was sent to the Kyoto Medical Reform School instead of a prison. His parents were ordered to pay 13.8 million yen in compensation to the victims, approximately $88,000. They were forced to sell their house and are continuing to pay off their debt to this day. But one question still remains. What had driven Neomugicha to commit such a heinous act in the first place? According to later reports, Neomugicha's real name is Seiichi Taniguchi. He grew up in southern Japan, in a typical middle-class family. His father worked as an office employee, and his mother was a nurse. In elementary school, Seiichi excelled academically, and later developed big dreams of becoming a public prosecutor, an ambition he kept throughout most of his school years. Yet despite his strong grades, he often appeared distracted, and showed little interest in socializing with his classmates, who all viewed him as different. In their minds, he was overly academic, bad at sports, and overall had a weird sense of humour. In junior high, those traits stood out more and made him the target of relentless bullying, to which most of his teachers turned a blind eye. This all came to a head shortly before graduation, when Seiichi was forced to jump from a 5-meter ledge, resulting in a bad back injury. While recovering in hospital, he both took and passed his high school entrance exams, but Seiichi was growing ever more isolated and aggressive. Unable to control his circumstances at school, he sought dominance within his family and frequently lashed out at his parents and sister, both verbally and sometimes physically. By high school, he struggled to communicate with other students and soon refused to attend school altogether, becoming a hikikomori. His parents didn't know how to fix the problem. His teachers didn't want to acknowledge there was a problem, and soon the young man fell into a dark and seemingly inescapable hole. From then on, Seiichi's only true source of joy came from his computer. Locked away in his room, he began obsessing over 2Channel, to the point where he forgot to sleep and eat. Having failed to make friends in the real world, he often reached out to make connections online, telling other users, "I've been ridiculed by everyone since I was a kid, and I have lived my whole life with no dreams or hopes." But as previously covered, the residents of 2Channel weren't sympathetic, and were always cold towards him. When he did try to get involved with legal discussions and ask questions pertaining to his studies, other users simply told him, "This is not a place for ignorant and uneducated folks like you." In March 2000, a mere 2 months before the bus-jacking incident, Seiichi's father discovered a knife, stun gun, and pepper spray hidden in his son's bedroom closet. Alarmed, his parents sought to help, both taking him to a psychologist and contacting the police. However, since Seiichi hadn't committed any crimes and had no formal psychiatric diagnosis, authorities claimed there was little they could do to intervene. As a last resort, the parents contacted Shizuo Machizawa, a TV psychiatrist, for advice. Machizawa had never met Seiichi or his parents, but on March 5th, called the Hizen National Sanatorium, who immediately took steps to hospitalize Seiichi for medical protection. When he was told he was going to be admitted to the hospital, Seiichi vowed revenge against his parents, though when he actually arrived, was polite to the medical staff and other patients. He even admitted that he had been a burden on his family. The staff was surprised that such a well-mannered young man had found himself sectioned. Eventually, after discussions between Seiichi, his parents, and the doctor, he was given permission to spend one night of Golden Week at home with his family. However, Seiichi's nice guy act was just that, a facade. Now back at home, he told his parents he planned to go cycling in the forest, but instead, he went to the store and purchased a chef's knife.
Wow.
He had to take out the rage that had been festering within him for so many years, an anger that he harbored against his bullies, his parents, and himself, and, inspired by other young killers, decided to take action before his 18th birthday. Initially, he planned to butcher random students at his former high school, but discovered the school was closed for the holidays. Determined to carry out an act of violence that day anyway, Seiichi pivoted. That's when he made his way to the Saga bus terminal, but not before leaving his cryptic message on 2Channel. Since the Neomugicha incident, several copycat crimes have occurred, including online threats made by 2Channel users, Neomugisake and Neo Oolongcha. Thankfully, the police were now wise to threats being made on 2Channel, and were able to arrest both boys before they took action.
Good.
There have been at least 2 other bus jackings, where the perpetrators cited Neomugicha as their inspiration. Measures have since been taken to deal with such incidents, should they happen again, including the implementation of SOS buttons in most buses, and specialized bus jacking squads being established. In January 2006, Seiichi was discharged from hospital, having spent just under 6 years in the facility. Under Japanese law, juveniles aren't criminally responsible for their actions, and so, upon his release, he faced no further consequences for taking the life of an innocent woman and potentially ruining the lives of many others.
Boy, that's just another reason I'm glad I don't live in freaking Japan. Are you serious? So if you commit a crime, if you kill, long story short, story long, this is basically what I just heard from the lazy man. If you kill somebody and you under the age of 18, once you get out of the crazy house they put you in, you a free man, free woman. You know what I'm saying? Long story short, story long. You can get away with murder as long as you commit that murder before you turn 18. Are you serious? Juveniles are not responsible for what they did. 17? Shit, me. His ass would have been in prison for the rest of his life if I had any say so in it.
Wherever Seiichi is, he's 42 years old now, and is said to have reintegrated back into society under a different name. I can't help but wonder if he has a family of his own now, whether he's haunted by his past actions or not, and if he's still lurking on internet forums. But though his life is allowed to go on, it's important to remember that one innocent life was ended, and many others were forever impacted. Many of Seiichi's victims continue to suffer from flashbacks to this day, and say that they can no longer ride the bus. Yuki in particular developed a fear of men with glasses, and struggled for years to be around anyone preparing dinner with a knife. But one of the survivors, Yumiko Yamaguchi, whose face was slashed, and whose friend Tatsuko Tsukamoto was killed, has since forgiven her attacker after speaking with him in person, and hearing about his trouble at school. "I'm glad that I was listened to by many people when I was young," she explained in her book about the incident, Playback. "We're all responsible for our actions, but I think it was hard for that boy to be heard by no one. His heart hurt as much as my wounds." Mrs. Yamaguchi has since dedicated her life to creating a space for children who struggle with bullying, and routinely gives lectures at juvenile detention centers. In her words, "I want children to feel it's fun to be alive."
And it's just so crazy, y'all, real quick. You can actually still see the knife where it's slashed her face at. Like the mark, the scar is still there and will be there forever. And it just lets you know how freaking deep and how freaking sharp that knife was that Neo pulled on her, man. What the freak?
Is it terrible that Seiichi was tormented throughout his youth? Absolutely. Did that give him carte blanche to act out and hurt others? Absolutely not. Personally, I'm not sure I could be as forgiving as Yumiko, especially considering he gave her a permanent facial scar, ended her friend's life, and barely paid any price at all for his actions. But unlike Seiichi, she was able to take the unjust pain inflicted upon her and turn it into purpose. And for that, she has my complete respect.
Facts. Big facts. Big facts, being team. She got my respect too, because like the lazy man said, and I ain't gonna even say I don't know. I will say I won't. I won't be able to goddamn forgive that man for that ish. If I was in her situation, got my face effed up for the rest of my life, you done killed people, killed my best friend, tortured us and kidnapped us and did all this. And not only have you done all that, but you got away with it. That's another thing, but she found it in her heart to be able to forgive him. I'm just saying, if I was in that situation, I'm pretty like 99.99999% sure that I would not be able to forgive this dude, man. Neo went crazy. And then Neo was smart too, y'all. And this is why I don't understand how this thing goes on over there. As far as the y'all know, I'm gonna stay stuck on it. As far as the freaking juveniles not being held accountable for freaking murder because they committed murder before they turned 18. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is another reason why I don't get it, because you got more Neos out there, I believe too. But Neo was smart. He knew that, okay, it ties into the 2Channel post and the doing something before you're 17, when you're 17, whatever. Yes, it ties into that. But my main point is, he knew about this whole law or rule that you couldn't be charged before you're 18. And I believe that's why he really wanted to do it at 17. Just think about how premeditated everything was with him. Think about how his parents, and shout out to his parents for actually getting him in the mental home and stuff. But they got him in the mental home, and instead of him acting all crazy in the mental home, he was on his best behavior, because the whole time he was plotting, when I get out. And they started letting him get one day out of the week to go visit his family. And guess what he did in that time? went to the grocery store, the corner store, whatever, got a knife, and then went on his killing spree / kidnapping massacre thingy, whatever. And I just feel like he was doing all that stuff at the age of 17, right before he turned 18, because he knew he was gonna get away with it. Now maybe I'm thinking too deep on it, Bean Team, but I'm pretty sure, man, and I know in the United States at least, if that law was in the United States, it'll be a lot more little kids out here killing if they know they can just get away with it. Oh my God, I'll be scared to go out freaking side, man. Seriously, you know how many kids be out here killing, Bean Team? We already got a problem with children, murderous children right now. It would be out of control if they knew they can get away with it. I digress, man. I'm gonna let y'all go, man. Great video from the Lazy Man as always. I appreciate y'all coming on back as always. And before you leave, just please hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and do all that if you ain't did that yet. And remember this: love, peace, and happiness. Stay safe. Don't stop. Keep going. Yeah.